What's up, guys? MLS Aces Podcast, episode 238. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, and usually I do things a little differently. Usually I have myself kind of just talking in the beginning about what's going on in MLS, but it's World Cup time. US just did some absolute magical stuff today, so I had to dive right in. And I have my guest with me, my co-host with me today, Nathan Hale, host of the You Ain't Lying podcast, talking everything FC Cincinnati. We're not talking FC Cincinnati today, though, Nathan. We're talking USMNT. We're talking the fact that we made it out of the group. So first of all, how are you? And thank you for joining me today.
First and foremost, thank you for having me. We've known each other for, 4 or 5 years at this point, it seems like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm doing good, man. Hell of a day, hell of a week. Literally smiling as I talk. I just could be more ecstatic, even if it was a 1-0 result, but I don't care. Like, we scored 2 goals in the entire 3 matches. I don't care. On to the knockout stages. Let's go. That's kind of my mentality.
So it's like my podcast recording for the MLS Aces podcast has been a little stagnant between personal stuff, wedding stuff, and then just I don't know, just life in general. The off season's gotten me a little shook with recording. So last time anyone's heard the MLS Aces podcast, this was prior to any of the group stage games. So during that episode, I said that it would be a failure for this group to not make it out of the group. Well, guess what? And I guess in my book, we didn't fail. We finished second in the group. England took first place with 7 points. Then us with 5 points. Iran with 3. Sorry, Iran with 3. I'm not going to pull Landon Donovan. Iran with 3.
Nice save,
sorry. And in last place, fourth, Wales with 1 point. Obviously, the point that we gave them. So I guess, Nathan, let's start just... We'll talk the whole kind of just group picture in general. Obviously, I feel like a lot of our conversation is going to go to the Iran game today. But, you know, we took the 1-1 draw against Wales, right? We had the Timothy Weah goal to set things up in that first game. Then the Walker Zimmerman foul in the box. Gareth Bale hits the PK. We know how that goes. England 0-0 draw, absolute fire, energy of a game. I was screaming. I lost my voice. I was in a bar packed with English fans.
And
I was getting middle fingers, and I'm singing the national anthem up on a bar stool, and we can talk about that more too. But today we get the Iran game, 1-0 winner. Pulisic throws it all on the line. Like, literally. Your overall thoughts about the group, which game stands out to you the most, which performances stand out to you the most? Like, you think back to this group performance from the USMNT, what's like the first few things that you think of?
I mean, I'm going to preface it me being a diehard, living in Cincy, the sport itself on the youth stages is very prominent. But, you know, FC Cincinnati is still, honestly, sad to say, but third fiddle between the Bengals and the Reds. Mm-hmm. We're growing our own. But a lot of my friends and colleagues ask me, World Cup, blah, 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 blah. What do you expect from the men's national team? And I literally looked them in the face and said, I have no idea. We could top the group. We could get 0 points. Yeah. Like, I have no idea with the games leading up to it versus Japan and some of the friendlies we had and Berhalter's tactics, man. Like, I just kind of scratched my head. But you also know that there's so much talent on the squad, like the club team talent that we see on a week in, week out basis for the diehards. Like, there's some skills here, and we can both agree at this point, like, arguably the most talented men's national team in U.S. history. But really, from a standout standpoint, I will say this: that first match versus Wales, the first half were great. The second half, tactically, we got it wrong. We let them get on the front foot. Mm-hmm. We deserved, even though Walker went through Bale's back and dumb move in the box.
Yeah,
dude, I will still say to this point, Bale's penalty was the best PK of the tournament so far, and Matt Turner had his hands on it. He was a nanosecond late.
So let's start with the Wales game, because I have some thoughts on it too, right?
Yeah,
so 1-1 game, I think I left that game very disappointed initially, right?
We all did, man.
That first half, we were so good. I thought it was. I'm not going to say it was our best half of this group stage, because we had a lot of really good halves. I'll also say that, but it was a really good half from us. The Sargent hold up to Pulisic on running, to the pass to Weah, the finish, like, that goal from Weah was like such just
Perfect.
eight years of pain just almost being washed away, right? Like that's what that felt like, of us missing out on the World Cup last time. And I'm not going to hark back to that. Plenty of people are doing it. It's true, but whatever. Then in the second half, like you said, the Zimmerman foul on Bale was a foul. It was a stupid play, but I'm saying this as maybe someone who obviously not maybe clearly loves Major League Soccer, but maybe someone who's trying to defend Major League Soccer in its own right, of like that could happen to any player at any time. Like a foul like that, you know, you have one guy who's just a little going in a little too hard, trying to make that play
in the moment. Yeah.
In the moment towards the end of the game. It's Gareth Bale, right? Like, you know, like there's all those factors on the line. And Walker Zimmerman just tried to do too much. And to your point, Matt Turner still got a hand on the freaking PK, right? Like, you know, it was all just, it took the energy out of me a little bit. I think it took the energy out of the Timothy Weah goal, but overall, out of that Wales performance, or sorry, our performance against the Wales, I felt positive looking back at it after I kind of got through the initial pain. I felt positive, as this was 99% of the team's first World Cup game. We are one of the youngest teams at this World Cup. This is guys in their 20s showing up on a national stage. This is teenagers showing up on an international stage, right? These are dudes who have their biggest competition was Mexico Gold Cup final, Mexico Nations League final, right? Like this isn't Mexico in the Azteca. This is Wales in Qatar, right? Like this is a different stage, a different
it's
setting.
Not Mexico at TQL.
Exactly. It's not, you know, it's not Canada up in Toronto. Like it's just like, this is completely different for a lot of these guys. And if looking back, you know, my feelings then, you know, looking back at it, it was, if this is their first exposure to a World Cup type environment, I'm okay with that performance. Then I'm not happy with the result, but I'm okay with what I just saw. I mean, so yeah,
you got your feet wet and you didn't drown. I mean, that's kind of the way I looked at it. I was with you. Like that second half was disappointing. I think it was a draw that felt like a loss. I think everybody could agree to that. And once you step back, you didn't put yourself behind the eight ball. You didn't. While it could have been better, it wasn't catastrophic. You know, Wales could have won 1-0 or 2-0, and then you're just playing catch up the entire rest of the group stage. So I completely agree. But when you step back and you look at it from 10,000 feet, you know, would I take it again? Yeah, because it gave us the platform to then produce versus England, in which I say produce a 0-0 draw, but produce versus England, and give us the platform that we had today to get the result, get the win, and move on to the knockout stages. So we learned a lot, I think, about the team. And to your point, a lot of these guys just getting their feet wet. You're in Qatar. It's a very unique environment. Most of these guys have never been to a World Cup or that kind of stage. They've played their international football has been friendlies and games on home soil for the most part. And when not on home soil, as we know about the men's national team, we haven't produced, we haven't scored. So that Weah goal was huge. Again, you know, it is what it is, but I'll take that result and what it kind of set for a platform for the next two matches.
So let's dive on into these next matches, right? So I do want to hear about, first and foremost, England game. It was the one weekend game we had of this group stage matches. It was Friday, right?
Whatever it was Friday. Yeah, okay. I was at a bar myself. Got there at 10 a.m. Matches at 2 Eastern. Man, and like, so local to Cincy, without getting too involved, across the street from TQL is a bar called The Pitch. And it is a soccer-specific bar. It is very well done. The guys that developed it, I don't know them personally, but they thought through everything. They have a 3-on-3 AstroTurf soccer field pitch next to the stadium. It's pretty, dude. It's pretty legit. Come on down. Cost of living's way better. I'll tell you that much.
It's not me you got to convince. It's someone else. You know.
Hey man, just let me know. but from that standpoint, like, it's a very cool atmosphere, and we got there at 10. Me and the wife had a few buddies that showed up and joined us. But it's also for the English supporters locally. It's their home bar for the English national team, and those guys reached out to the bar ahead of time and said, "Hey, could we get like a roped off spot?" And I credit to the local camaraderie. They said no.
Yeah.
Like, you live in America, guys. Like, no, you can come. Doors are open, but you're not getting your own English supporting section for a match. But the atmosphere was great. Overcrowded as any bar is going to be on that day, especially a soccer-specific bar.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Like, again, looking back on it, I was at a bar for the Portugal match when you know, Jermaine Jones had my favorite men's national team goal of all time. Like, I went nuts when that happened. And that was, I wouldn't say my early stages and really falling in love with the men's national team and international soccer, but it kind of was the moment. And then the goal to equalize in stoppage was heartbreaking. I still remember it. So it was good being back after taking 2018 off inadvertently. It was good being back in that environment, being amongst friends that you don't know are friends yet, and everybody be on the same page. So
random stranger you're gonna hug when, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. I wish we would have had a goal that game versus England, because like the place would have gone nuts. We showed out as a team, but you know, the result was great. We bossed the match. It sucks that, dude, if Pulisic's, you know, the one who hit the crossbar, if that was just
heartbreaking,
ricocheted and went in, like, we're already going to build the statue after today, but dude, the statue would already be completed at that point. So yeah.
So I had a similar watching party, right? Because like I said, the England game was the first quote unquote weekend game. It was the Friday after Thanksgiving. You know, like most people have off that day. So you knew shit was going to be packed. Shit was going to be bumping. People are coming off Thanksgiving, like all of that. So there was a lot of energy around it, right? Everyone's playing you know, we haven't lost to England in a World Cup, or on the men's or the women's side. The last time, you know, we played England, we got that 1-1 draw in a World Cup, like all that stuff, right? Like, so there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of hype. You know, I do know my fair share of English people, so I'm talking shit, they're talking shit back. But if you guys are familiar in like the New York, New Jersey area, whatever, in Manhattan, there is a bar called the Football Factory. It's in the basement of a bar called Legends, but it's like its own thing. But Football Factory, obviously by its name, Nathan, like you kind of said, it's a soccer specific bar. You know, they have different sections, like not purposely roped off, but like you go into one corner and you'll just see stickers and scarves and jerseys of Millonarios, like the Colombian first division team. And then you have like, it's more known as a AC Milan bar, but like you can be an Inter fan and go down there, but the Inter bar is kind of like a few blocks away. It's very interesting how it's naturally progressed into being certain clubs' bars. It's an Irish bar, Irish owned bar. But like English fans go to it, right? Because like there's that connection there. But we go there. I've gone there a few times. I've gone there for like Premier League morning games where, you know, like you're getting there for the 7 a.m. game and you're not leaving until the final game. And you have your drinks and you're pretty banged up after, but you had a pretty good day. My buddy who lives in the city got there at 9 a.m. to secure a table, because like tables like prime property.
We showed up at 10, man. I get it.
So I could only get there though at 10:30. Like I had some stuff I had to do in the morning. So I get there at 10:30 with my other friend, and there's already like a decent sized amount of people there, like kind of like what I would expect on any normal Premier League morning. And I'm like, okay, we're in the middle of like Senegal and whoever they were playing. I was like, this is about it. There's still a whole other game before the US game. Like this is about to get interesting. So, you know, that game finishes up. We get the game before ours. That was starting to get packed. And by the time we got to like an hour and a half before the England game, they weren't letting people in the basement anymore because the bar was that packed. I posted the video on my Twitter, so go back and check that out if you want to see kind of the one shot I got of the day. But just the energy, the banter back and forth, 1776 chants, the shove your Thanksgiving up your ass chants, the Harry Maguire. First of all, that Harry Maguire chant for England, I think might be the best chant in all of just world soccer. I'll give England that if I have to give them anything.
You got to put which chant is that? Because I've got the Willow Saliba Arsenal chant.
Saliba's pretty good. This goes
pretty good.
You're gonna make me sing. Okay, Harry Maguire, Harry Maguire, he drinks the vodka, he drinks the Jaeger, his head's fucking massive. Love that song. By the end of the game, when it was clearly going 0-0, I was next to this drunk English dude. Him and I had our arms around each other's shoulders. I'm screaming the song with him. I'm just having a great time because, like, I mean, that song just went nuts for me. But clearly I also had a few drinks of my own, but like the environment I think around that game is what I'm honestly going to take away most outside of the amazing performance from the US, and we should probably talk about that outside of my experience at a bar for the game. But I think kind of to what your point and what you said when you were talking about the game too is like we dominated that game. Like we outplayed England on the field. And that's incredible that we can come back, look at that game and say, like, we were the better team of the quote unquote best team in the group. We showed that we could play with a lot of these guys. And it just kind of sucks that we didn't get the job done. We had the Christian Pulisic crossbar hit. We had the Weston McKennie absolutely just sky one in the first half.
Come on, Weston.
Like that
Keep
one
it on
killed
goal,
me.
bro.
Like just tap it forward. And honestly, like you could have rolled it, and I think that was going in. But just that game, I think that game was the spark plug for this squad and for kind of the casual US fan to be like let's go. Like that was a lot of energy. That was a lot of just like solid performances. And yes, we didn't get the win, but like that was the game of this group, I think.
I saw so many casuals go, it was 0-0. What a boring match. And it was like the
that
furthest
was not
thing.
A boring match.
It was the furthest thing from it. As you said, man, like you look at the English squad, you go, 1 through 11, man. Although I would say Turner's better than Pickford. He backs up Ramsdale at Arsenal, but let's be bygones there. I love them both. But just the English squad in terms of this is kind of a weird, I wouldn't say tangent, but just an aspect to it. The evaluation globally of the English national team.
Mm-hmm.
Grealish himself, who commanded $100 million. Granted, he's not getting a whole lot of time at City, but like that's our entire squad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Arguably, maybe not Pulisic, not Tyler Adams now, not Musah now, but looking at it, it's just very interesting to see how things kind of played out and who was supposed to boss the game and the heart and the drive. And also the skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Adams, hands down, best midfielder in our group, but let alone that game.
Tyler Adams shut down Harry Kane in that game.
Dude owned Harry Kane. Told Jude Bellingham, like, you're not an adult yet. Like, let's calm down. Like, just dominated that match, man. And it's, dude, I cannot get enough of Tyler Adams. And dude, I love that guy. I knew who he was beforehand from his Red Bull 2 days kicking our ass in USL to his short time with the Red Bulls here locally to, Salzburg, to just everything that he's done. And it's, man, like, and then the press conference this past couple of days, like, dude, like you are the guy. Pulisic's Captain America. I mean, I don't know we want to go, Marvel characters, but Tyler Adams, man, I cannot speak highly enough about him. And it just gets me excited, man. I watch him with Leeds. I watch him and Aronson together. That's kind of my Premier League B team.
Yeah.
But dude, I am so damn proud of these guys. It's uncanny the way they kind of showed out and just shut literally everybody up. And they did it not by talking, not by running their mouths, not by being arrogant, the typical, America aspect, but by just playing 90 minutes plus, putting their heads down, you quit, we won't aspect. And yeah, man, like that England match to kind of bring it all back together. Really, like, we're here. We can compete. We can play with anybody. There's going to be matches, depending on how this rest of this World Cup plays out, where we play a Brazil, where we play a France, where the talent from the top to bottom, like, you're going to question us. But the effort, the drive, the teamwork, the camaraderie, it's there, man. It is absolutely there, and the sky's the limit for this team as it continues to grow.
No, and I mean, look, I completely agree with you, and I think that's all you can really ask for out of this group, right? So obviously, we get the draw against Wales, the draw against England, 2 points heading in today's match against Iran, and I'm gonna say early in this game today, I was concerned, I was nervous because Iran, they didn't bunker. They kind of went out on the front foot for the first, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes or so of the match. I have to rewatch it, but like they had me a little worried in the beginning, and then the US kind of took over in possession, took over in chance creation, and then kind of a lot of what I feel like we've seen from the US too over the past year or so of a lot of chance creation, a lot of chance creation, a lot of crosses, a lot of crosses. Oh, that ball was just, slightly off. Like if that ball was hit a little bit better, whatever it may be. Oh, there's no one home to finish it. There's no one home from finish it. We're skying shots from outside the box. We're missing easy opportunities. And I was just like, we're really going to lose this game. Like, we're really not going to be able to get the ball in the back of the net. And like that one hurt. And then obviously the Christian Pulisic goal, Sergino Dest putting in that ball into the box into Christian. Christian outrunning the left back for Iran and putting it all on the line, getting absolutely destroyed on the finish, but getting the ball in the back of the net. And at the end of the day, that was the tiebreaker in this one. That was the goal. Captain America, if we're going to call it Christian Pulisic, that he put it all out there. He sacrificed his entire body to make sure we made it out of the group. And yes, Tyler Adams is the literal captain. I truly think he is the best player on this team. I think he's the most important player on this team, whatever you want to call him. But Christian Pulisic was there in Cuba when we didn't qualify. Christian Pulisic today was putting his stamp on this team by saying, we're making it out of this group. We're not having another disappointing, like just absolute shit storm around this federation. We're showing that we're proud and we're going to do it. So that's kind of what I took out of the Christian Pulisic goal today.
The match itself, man, you spot on. Like, I expected Iran to bunker. Like, they simply needed a result. They needed to get a draw. We move on, and they could have frustrated us all match. And they kind of came out, as you said, with more of a front foot approach. We're going to be a little aggressive. If they would have got up 1-0 or early goal, we would have
made it so hard on us.
Yeah, dude, it would have been deep trouble. But it kind of played to our favor that like we could hit back just the same. Their final third versus our final third, neither were too congested. We had plenty of opportunities before that. Weah's header that had he taken it down and was kind of a ricochet, and it kind of surprised him. But had he just controlled it a little bit better and been a little bit more patient, because the keeper started to come out, and I think he picked up on that and was like, all right, I got to try to get it on frame. And he did. He had a header that was ultimately right to the keeper's hands. But if he just would have – he had time to bring it down, control it, and even try to volley it. And as long as he's on frame, I think he scores there. Pulley's goal, more credit than anything to the setup to Dest, and then Dest's header back into the box.
Mm-hmm.
Sergino has played kind of an unsung hero to this point for me for the tournament. Jedi or Anthony Robinson has had a very good tournament himself, as you look at the two wing backs or right back, left back, however you want to look at it. But Dest's, his technical ability, man, is awesome. And he's calm, he's collected, and he really hasn't shown out what he can do going forward. He's kind of been, he's obviously a target man for us, but defenders know what he can bring. We've seen it both on the international stage and with Barca and some of his club teams. But his header back into the box was perfect for Pulley to get his foot on it. And as you said, with a self-sacrifice, just to go all out. Like, I'm going to get my foot on the ball. I know the keeper's right in front of me, and then just to essentially wreck himself. And I think I've seen the highlight probably 40 times at this point. At first, I was worried about his ability to have kids. But I think it was truly like his right, hip flexor kind of area, which is good because it probably would have been a lot worse if it wasn't. But it just, man, like to get up 1-0, arguably 2-0 with the onside, offside BS that they showed us a half a second of highlight on and just moved on, like kind of swept it under the rug. Dude, Weah was probably on. Like, if you're gonna play that kind of coy oops and hide it as much as they've highlighted technology and replay this far in the World Cup. But I mean, that first half was very good. The second half was a little unnervy, to say the very least. But yeah. I mean,
the second half, let's dive into the second half, and then we'll talk about some specific players. I mean, more than we have, right? We've highlighted Adams, Pulisic, whatever. But the second half, this game was rough. Kind of reminded me of second half against Wales, to be honest, where we didn't really come out hot. I think we had our moments, we had our stretch, but then at the end of the game, that was just an absolute shit show of let's just fucking make it out. Like, right, like Berhalter subbing in a third center back, Berhalter subbing in Shaq Moore to be more defensive. You know, we don't really have a striker out. We don't really have any kind of forward out on the field. We have Brendan Aronson highest up the field, and that's mainly just because Aronson's, you know, a Duracell battery, and he's not going to stop going. It was a very ugly half of that game. I don't like the decision from Berhalter to do that. Yes, it ended up being, I guess, quote unquote, the right one. We didn't allow a goal. We didn't allow a penalty. We got through. We got the win, shutout win, whatever it may be. But, you know, we played such a good game against England. We played such a good half against Wales. I don't want to see us bunkering against Iran. Like that's not what I want the U.S. men's national team to do. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too nitpicky. Like we got out. But what did you think about that second half, or even that ending to the game?
Some of the subs frustrated me. You know, we can talk about the Nashville boys in terms of Walker. Walker completely redeemed himself in that second half.
Was great.
Yeah, Walker was awesome, especially with his his positioning, his ability to get his head on the ball, clear it, just get it back in the air away from goal. Shaq Moore had a few very nervy moments. I know Turner yelled at him at one point when Turner could have just got the ball, but Shaq cleared it out to the side for an Iran throw. Had he just been a little bit more aware, there was nobody around him, like control it or let Turner get it. Listen to your keeper. But
exactly
in the heat of the moment, I get it. You know, mistakes happen. Haji Wright coming on, obviously Sargent got hurt. Like, where's Ferreira been? That would be my question. That's something we can talk about here in a minute, and Gio Reyna, obviously. But I liked the three center back pairing, bringing Walker on with Ream and Carter Vickers, who had an amazing match out of nowhere. I've watched plenty of Scottish football and Celtic this year. Carter Vickers is a stud, but the Scottish Premiership is really 3 or 4 teams heavy at the top, and the rest of it is USL level, in my opinion. So it's not, you know, it's, I don't know what to compare it to, but it's not the best competition from a, you know, international type player. But he had a great match. What would I have done differently? I still would have brought Zimmerman on, gone 3 at the
100%.
back. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. Especially with the wing backs you have in Robinson and Dest. But bringing Shaq on, I would have rather have Yedlin at that point, even if he was playing the wrong side. Just from the pace standpoint and the maturity, right? Shaq's international career is very limited. His high-level career is very limited. You look at Yedlin, just the same. Newcastle for 4 or 5 years, and then men's national team. I mean, Yedlin's been a piece of the puzzle for some time. I would just say
he's the only dude with World Cup experience. Yeah.
Exactly. The experience and the longevity that he's had, and then athletically, he's just the same as Shaq. He's faster, I can promise you that. Might have changed some things. I mean, I know Shaq had that ball. It was down the right side where he didn't have anybody to pass it to, and he, instead of just bombing it forward, he kind of just passed it up the pitch to around and let them get possession. Yedlin doesn't do that. He might recycle it. He might turn back around, or just try to take somebody one-on-one and get a foul.
I do think that's the worry, though, right? Like Yedlin, you know, Yedlin's very similar to Dest to me, where Yedlin's going to try to make an offensive play out of it, and I personally don't hate that in that moment, but I think what Berhalter was trying to do in that moment tactically is we're going defensive. Shaq Moore, yes, he'll get up the field, but he's not as much of an offensive threat.
He's not a risk. I
as
get
a
that.
Yedlin or a
I get
Dest,
that.
right? So I think that's what the thought process is if we needed an offensive boost on the right side, I'm throwing in Yedlin. If we need a defensive lockdown on the right side so we don't have Dest running up and down the field for the last 20 minutes of a game, I'm throwing in Shaq Moore. That's kind of my thinking.
Okay. I don't disagree with that. Shaq's played a match and a half, really a match completed with, a couple halves.
Yeah.
Hasn't looked bad, but hasn't looked great. I don't like to badmouth players individually, but it's not his best, not his best 90 minutes. But again, if you need him, come Netherlands, on Saturday. At least he's been there a little bit and he's got a little bit of playing time under his belt. So I agree. I think Yedlin's clearly your more offensive player. Yedlin's been an offensive right back his entire career. So I get it. Zimmerman, we discussed, played the part. We can talk about Carter Vickers. We could talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Tim Ream.
So let's go through some individuals and let's just outside of the Iran game, right? Let's talk about kind of group overall performance and everything like that. And I think it's gonna make sense, I think, to talk about some of the highlighted are better players from overall from the group. You mentioned Tyler Adams earlier and kind of gave him all the praise, and I tagged along to that too. I just also want to add that Tyler Adams played 270 plus minutes of this entire group. Like, he was our best player. He is our D mid that is going to make that last ditch tackle, that is going to kind of help out one of our fullbacks who may have gotten too far up the field, or maybe someone who's out of place, or make that interception for that pass that's going to be that dangerous ball to break apart our defense. Tyler Adams does that and is our most important player. And he did all of that with getting one yellow card in the group stage. That's unbelievable. Today, I thought he got his second when he got that yellow card when Pulisic got hurt and he made that tackle that was probably an offensive buildup saving tackle. But he only got one, and that's unbelievable. And if I had to pick a player of the group stage for the U.S. men's national team, or for this group in general, I would say it's Tyler Adams. Is there anything else you want to add about Tyler Adams before we move on to something?
I'll second everything you're going to say and already said. I think it's important to hit on the maturity at his age.
Yes.
And his just game and spatial awareness at his age. His ability to break up a play, whether it's tactfully or whether it's a strategic foul. His ability to protect his back line when they're out of place or out of position is elite at the very minimum. And the funny thing about Tyler Adams is, he's been kind of hyped in men's national teams and in international circles for quite some time. But this is really the first time I think the world has seen it at that level. We see it with, dude, he's already a legend at Leeds.
100%.
100%. And Leeds even went out, the club itself, after that England match, and they took a shit ton of flack for it on social media. But they hyped Tyler Adams, and all the English fans, what are you talking about? This is an American, this and that. And it's, they kind of went club over country, which a lot of people do, especially in the Premier League.
Bro, Tyler Adams dapped up Gareth Southgate after the game. That's just the respect level of I don't care which opponent it is. It is the opponent's head coach. It just so happens to be the opponent is one of the best teams in the world. The head coach is the head coach of one of the best teams in the world, showing that respect towards not arguably who was the best player in that game, that England game. So I mean, you're 100% right.
Yeah, it's so more than anything, just golf clap, slow clap to Tyler Adams, man. Again, and as I mentioned earlier, his off the field presence, his press conference presence, his ability to handle, questions out of left field like an adult, like a grown ass man, and do it so he wasn't arrogant in doing so, but just casually and genuine, like he's another human.
Yep.
And there's not a lot of players at any level within international soccer or club level soccer that can do so, and do so to where you're not mad at him, you're not angry, you're not screw this guy, you're okay, I like you.
No.
So yeah, man, I cannot speak highly enough about Tyler Adams. If anything, I've got a little bit of a man crush coming out of this group stages, more so than I already had from the Premier League days and his MLS days. But man, just again, hat tip to him. So, I don't want to skip out on Musah, Yunus Musah.
I was going him next, so go for it.
I mean, just the same. It's like Tyler Adams, just a few years younger. Athletically, just the same. Speed, spatial awareness, ability to break up a play, not get yourself in trouble. That relentless motor. Most teams, I mean, you saw Iran, as I should say, run out of gas at the end. and dude, Musah was spent, but you could see it when he had some downtime. But when it push come to shove,
he was still going.
He was still going, man. And that is one thing I'll say about this team. As young as it is, that was an advantage we had, and we still will have for the rest of the tournament. As young as we are, our ability to recover, to bounce back, to play a full 90 in the heat, even though there's air conditioning, quote unquote, just to really do that gives us a little bit of an advantage, especially against some, hopefully we get a little bit further as some of these older teams that just don't have that longevity and that youth.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Musah, again, like that midfield pairing, depending on who plays the attacking role, whether it's Brendan Aronson, whether it's Paxton down the road, somebody we haven't seen yet, whether it's Pulisic down the road, just
whoever, Reina maybe.
Yeah, hopefully. But like, it just, man, like that's a scary tandem. It's like having 2 6s and 2 8s at the same time. They can do a little bit of everything. The key, in my opinion, to a lot of not necessarily international soccer, but just the game in general is your spine. The clubs always talk about their spine. The men down the middle. And when you have 2 players of that caliber that have that skill set, that where they can piggyback off one another, that lock down the center of the pitch to the point where you have to go wide, dude, it's such a nightmare to play against, both offensively and defensively.
Especially when you can win that midfield too. The spine. Like that. You
just own it. Like. I don't know, and I'll ask you this, and then you can kind of carry on, but is there another international team right now, and we're talking some heavy hitters, you're talking about Casemiro with Brazil, or, I mean, De Bruyne's a little bit different because De Bruyne's not going to play defense, but any other midfield in the competition, in the World Cup right now, that really has that same 1-2 punch?
I want to say France, but then even that, I think I would say France if Pogba and Conte were obviously healthy.
But they're the latter part, man. Like, we're talking about 2 guys in their early 20s.
Yeah.
Musah, who just turned 20.
Maybe Spain.
Spain. That's fair. Spain's. Yeah, that's fair. Because they've got. God, I can't think of the 2 kids' names.
Pedri and Gavi.
Yeah. But they're 19 and 20 themselves. That's a great comparison, though. But it's such a funny comparison because you're talking about the tactically elite in Spain,
exactly,
versus the brute force that is been American soccer with Dempsey, with Lawless. Man, that's a good shout. That's a very good shout.
So, I mean, look, you hit everything on the head with Musah, and I don't want to add too much to that. My only thing that I wanted to say is I feel like if I could pinpoint one player on the USMNT that has increased his international value post World Cup, right? We talk about the James Rodriguez deal and who's the next young player that's going to get the big transfer and blah, 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 right? I feel like Tyler Adams could potentially be that. I don't maybe think so because he just recently got to Leeds and, he's playing under a coach he likes and he's playing in the Premier League already, whatever it may be. If I had to pick the next dude up, it's Yunus Musah. Obviously, I'm sure Valencia are thrilled. They're just adding the millions of dollars to Musah's price tag. But Yunus Musah to me is like what. And I'm sorry to make a comparison to a Columbus Crew player here, and I'm not saying Yunus Musah is
fine.
An MLS level, but I'm saying if you gave me Darlington Nagbe today, last year, in his more recent years, where he's still impossible to get the ball off his feet. He still has a constant motor. He's not a true 10, but he's not a 6, but he's going to play next to that 6, and he's going to be that perfect complement. But you threw that in a 20-year-old, happy birthday, Yunus Musah, 20-year-old's body. That's Yunus Musah. Like, I like, we have said for years, right? Like, we wish Darlington Nagbe played for the U.S. men's national team, because there is not many midfielders better skill and talent wise than him. He obviously just wants to take his time with his family, and not play for the USMNT. It's respect it 100%. You do your thing. It's your career. Yunus Musah is that player for me. Yunus Musah is that if Darlington Nagbe was paired next to Tyler Adams, but 10 years younger. And that's why Thanksgiving was recently. I am thankful that Yunus Musah is only 20, and we could potentially have another decade plus of him on the U.S. men's national team. And that's incredible to think about, if you ask me.
One thing I'll add to that is, and this kind of goes the same for Dest and Musah specifically, is, Dest has his American ties. Obviously, he's part of the men's national team, but he's also Dutch. He'd be arguably a starter for
100%. He would start.
Yeah. Him and Dumfries are 1-2.
Yeah.
On that Dutch national team. Musah was born in New York, your great state, if you will, but didn't really grow up here.
No.
He was in Hale End. He was part of the Arsenal Academy with Saka, with Bukayo Saka. But he made the decision, part of this conglomerate, these young guys, to play for the men's national team, the U.S. men's national team. And I'm just thankful for that, man, because this is really the first time I can think of that where it's top level international talent that has decided to stay with the men's national team. We got a striker that was also born in Brooklyn that is also part of Arsenal, and Florian Balogun.
I want that dude for R9.
Find a way for 2026. That's a whole different tangent, man.
He said he wants to play for England.
He does, but okay. Do you want to start or do you want to play?
Do you want to be the 9 for the? Do
you want to be the guy,
2026 World Cup winner?
Yeah. Do you want to be the guy or one of the guys?
That's it.
So, but it's the as I said, the melting pot that is the United States. Yeah. It's really the first time that some of these guys have decided to, quote unquote, come home. And we're gonna see more over the next 4 years. That's a whole different podcast. But the talent, the youth that's gonna kind of come out of the woodworks, that's something I firmly believe in. That they say, the United States is behind the 8 ball in terms of a soccer or football nation, because our best athletes play basketball, football, baseball. But the tide is changing, and some of these guys that were born here, spent time here, have family ties here, that I cannot really think outside of Brazil, Spain, but really Brazil, a more trendy team than the United States. So, yeah. That's exciting. But to circle back to some of the players from a standout tournament standpoint, again, shout out to Carter Vickers today.
He put in a solid 90-minute shift. I thought when we were figuring out the center back situation, right, and the 4 center backs came out, I thought it was going to be Zimmerman and CCV. I did not think Tim Ream was going to be the starter, but solid shift today from CCV, so you got to give him the credit.
Him, Tim Ream, I think Doyle even mentioned today post-match that in their little podcast / chit-chat that Tim Ream, defender of the tournament so far.
Bro, Tim Ream has
dude, it's hard to argue that.
It's funny, the trajectory of Tim Ream, and I'm going to go on a little side tangent of Berhalter kept including him what, like a year and a half ago, and everyone's like, why the fuck is Tim Ream on the roster? Yeah. Then you see him against Mexico, and I can specifically remember Tata Martino pointing at Tim Ream and saying, go at him. Like, he's playing left back, go at him. He can't keep up with us. And Tim Ream getting burned, and Tim Ream making just not a ton of mistakes, but he would make 1 or 2 mistakes a game that would cost us a goal or cost us a goal opportunity, right? Then as Miles Robinson goes down, then as Chris Richards goes down, then as no other center back like Mark McKenzie, and I love Mark, but Mark McKenzie or Eric Palmer Brown or guys like that, not really separating themselves from the pack to be included in that Walker Zimmerman. Obviously, Aaron Long having his place. CCV, I feel like, is the only one that really separated himself from that next center back pairing pack. I felt like it was just, yeah, and Tim Ream's a starter in the Premier League, and he's 35, but who gives a shit? He's having a great season. Let's toss him in. And now he's played 270 minutes for us, and he's been our best defender. Like, you got to give Tim Ream all the love in the world.
Completely agree. You left out one name, and I'm a homer, so I got to mention Matt Miazga. Dude, I think he deserves to be there, but that's a whole different story. A whole different story. But
we'll talk offline about that.
Yeah, right. But Ream himself, man, like he put 1 foot wrong this entire tournament. I'm knocking on wood right now, literally.
He literally had that one pass he put out of bounds today. I think that was his first mistake.
Yeah, like it's just insane. But that goes to show from the standpoint of a player believing in himself, putting his head down, continuing just to produce. You know, him with Fulham this year, you know, Fulham's mid-table, you know, a club that was expected just to get battered, and they're right there. And that's, again, a shout out to Anthony Robinson, to Jedi Robinson, that he's also part of that club. So those are really my standouts. We can talk a little bit about, you know, Pulisic. We know what we've got with Christian. I think Christian just kind of continues to show out.
Do you think Christian's not 100%? I think, like, so Christian putting in crosses and putting in corners against Wales is ugly, right? Like, it was dog shit.
It has been for some time, yeah.
I think against England, he did a very good job at it, though. Or maybe not very good, maybe just he did a good job at it. And then against Iran, I think, you know, against them today, he kind of went back to his Wales performance. And I know against Wales, like, clearly Wales was targeting Pulisic, and they were fouling him, right? And like, they were going after him. Iran did that today as well. So my worry is, like, if you're starting Christian Pulisic, and I think you should start Christian Pulisic every game if you're Greg Berhalter, and the team decides to be physical with him, I think he gets beat up very quickly, and I think that impacts his passing performance.
Well, man, I guess that's been his MO, right? He's always been a little bit, you know, whether to quote the English, you know, a slight injury and knock versus, you know, is he ever healthy? He's dealt with that at Chelsea his entire career there. Even before, so Borussia Dortmund, like, you know, was he healthy? He was Gio Reyna before Gio Reyna, sadly enough. I don't disagree, but you got to keep running them out, and that's one thing you hope with Christian. I know, does he develop an ability to play through it? Does he develop the ability that, like, I'm injured, but am I that injured? Can I play at a top tier level? Maybe not 100%, but is my 90% good enough?
Hey, he said he's in a hospital bed posting that he's ready to go for the Netherlands.
I think some of that comes with time, with age. You know, I hate the man from what he does on the pitch, but I respect him for what he also does on the pitch with Harry Kane. And a guy that's always beat up but always plays. You know, so from that standpoint, yeah, I would agree. Like, is he 100%? Probably not. Is he 85 to 90%? Probably. Does the adrenaline kick in and you find a way? You know, most professional athletes would tell you they're never at 100%. It's just the nature of the beast. So is he our guy to take corners? No, in my opinion. I'd probably put Dest out there, just with his technical ability, but that's really the best you can do. But it is what it is at this point. You know, I see the same thing with Lucho Acosta at FCC. It drives you nuts, like a player with so much technical ability that just is not consistent putting balls in the box from corners. But hopefully Christian's healthy. He said he's going to be for Saturday. And really looking at it, the last question I want to leave you with, you know, before we move on, is what do we do up front? You know, Sargent played well today. He's probably, it looked like he came off with an injury. He's going to be hurt for Saturday. Haji, has had his moments, but has also had his moments.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Ferreira at all. We're not going to see Brandon Vasquez at all.
No Peacock, no Pepe
No,
coming in, you know?
like that's just, again, that's a whole different
Yes,
podcast.
yes.
But the physicality that we really need from a 9 that would just help so much in these past few matches, from hold up play, from a pressing standpoint, from set pieces and balls into the box. That 6'1", that 6'2", that 6'3" power forward that can just get his head on the. We just don't have it, man.
Well, see, the funny thing about that statement is Haji Wright's 6'4", which is incredible, but he does not play like he's 6'4". I've never seen a 6'4" striker not be as
like he's 5'7"
physical in the air as Haji Wright is.
Yeah,
like,
dude,
it's incredible. But to answer your striker question, Josh Sargent, to me, we have been the most impactful offensively with Josh Sargent on the field. Obviously, Sargent's coming back a little bit more back to goal. He had the ball before he had the ball that led to the assist that led to the goal in the first Timothy Weah goal, right? So I'm starting Josh Sargent as much as I possibly can. I haven't hated what I've seen from Haji Wright. I think Haji Wright makes the right movement off the ball. I think he makes the right runs. Again, I think it just comes down to the ability at a higher level. Haji Wright's scoring a ton in Turkey, and Turkey's not a poor league whatsoever. But I think when you just look at him against England, he disappeared. When I think you saw Haji Wright against Wales, he disappeared. I just don't see him when he's playing at up a level. I just don't see him stepping up to the plate. I think he does everything correctly up until the finish, right? So to me, it's Sargent, it's Wright. I honestly wanted to see Jesus Ferreira today. I don't understand how Berhalter has gotten so many of quote unquote his guys that we've called him over the last year and a half, 2 years, just not playing or not on the team, in a Zach Steffen and a Ricardo Pepi and a Jesus Ferreira, right? It's incredible that he has just gone kind of balls to the wall. We're going completely sideways, and we're grabbing Haji Wright, and Haji Wright's eating up all the minutes over Jesus Ferreira, who has started and played some of the most important games for me over the past year and a half. So I would like to see Jesus Ferreira in. I was truly, honestly expecting to see Jesus Ferreira in, and out of all of the guys who we have not seen play a minute, the 2 backup keepers, Aaron Long, Joe Scally, Luca De La Torre, Christian Roldan, Jesus Ferreira is the most shocking to me that we have not seen play a minute. Maybe Aaron Long, because again, that's another Berhalter guy who we haven't seen play. But it's the striker situation is weird, because that's also, at the end of the day, I would say our biggest issue coming out of the group stage is finishing, is that dude who's going to put in that dangerous just ball to test the keeper, that goal that we need, right? Like, we don't have that. We don't have anyone who is that goal dangerous that's really going to make center backs work. And Josh Sargent has done it the best, but I don't think he is done it enough to where the rest of the team who is creating all these chances, where we should have it.
It feels like we've got a lot of wingers playing the 9.
Yeah,
on paper. So the question is, do you even start Ferreira versus the Netherlands? If Sargent isn't 100%, do you go back to Haji? Which
I think he probably does.
He does, just because it's safe, and that's what he's known so far. But I don't know. It's a very intriguing question, and we can kind of segue that into Gio and what's going on with Reyna. Arguably, outside of Pulisic, our second most versatile and important player going forward.
Yeah.
We've seen nothing from him, and he's quote unquote
7 minutes
per the player. He's healthy.
So okay, so can we talk about the drama around this a little bit? And I don't want to
self-created. Like,
I think 100%.
Yeah,
it's Gio Reyna saying he's good to go. He can play. He wants to play. Right. I think if you have a player not saying that, I think that's an issue. So I'm happy that Gio Reyna is coming out and saying, like, I'm good to go. Like, I want to get on the field, whatever. I honestly do believe in, like, my heart of hearts that Gio Reyna has a knock, and it's maybe more than just like a slight knock. I think he has something going on, and that's the reason why we haven't seen him. Because Greg Berhalter has specifically stated how much he thinks Gio Reyna is talented. We've seen Greg Berhalter start Gio Reyna in important games, even when Gio Reyna has had a slight injury. We've seen him sub on and make an important make just important plays, aka the Mexico final or one of the Mexico finals. We've seen Gio Reyna be the most talented player on the field for the USMNT as a teenager. Why would Greg Berhalter give him 7 minutes against England and not play him against Wales or Iran if maybe that quote unquote slight knock or slight injury wasn't more serious? So I think it's more just a case of Berhalter knows it's more serious. Reyna is never going to say he can't play and he wants to play. And Eric Winalda is just trying to stir shit up in my grand opinion of all of the Gio Reyna stuff.
The Winalda shout is spot on. We all know that. Miola actually talked about it a little bit. This might have been this morning or the day before on in the morning on Sirius XM. Obviously he grew up with Winalda. He knows him. And Winalda kind of backtracked.
I saw the backtrack.
Yeah, he backtracked a little bit after the fact. It didn't get the publicity, obviously, because it's not as juicy. But he backtracked a little bit. You'd think that you're right. There's got to be something with Gio that he's not 100%. Whether you're just looking out for player safety or whether him at not at 100% could impact the rest of the players on the pitch themselves in terms of the team as a whole. I don't know. We're gonna find out. If Puli can't go or Puli's not 100%, can Puli give you 45 at 100% and then Gio give you another 45 at 100%? I'll take that 10 out of 10 days of the week. So I don't know. It's all speculation. There was even some drama after the fact as the players tonight, as they came back to the hotel. Gio's coming in and he's got his headphones on and he's kind of just everybody's celebrating. Pulisic, just out of his hospital bed is super excited. You got Weah, you got, Robinson, you've got Tyler Adams, all hype. We're continuing on, and Gio just seemed kind of disinterested. And that could be either, he's frustrated. It could be he's frustrated because he's hurt and he knows he's hurt and he's not 100%. It could be 10 different things.
Yeah, he's frustrated with Berhalter. He's frustrated with the fact that, he thinks he can play, but he can't, and Weah is starting, and whatever. Like it's 700 things. He's also a teenager, right? Like at the end of the day, he was one of 3 teenagers coming into this roster, and I'm not gonna pull the old card of kids these days, but it's more just teenagers, they take things to heart sometimes. I took things to heart when I was 17, 18 years old, when I would look back at it now at 27 and be like, that was fucking dumb, so it's maybe, and I wasn't a professional soccer player. This dude's a professional
top level professional soccer player.
So it's there's also situations like that of Reyna clearly knows his talent level, and for whatever reason he's frustrated. It could be one of a million, like we said. I'm sure it's getting to him, and that's fine. It's fine, because I think you need to work past it if you are going to be part of this. And if you're not going to work past it, then that's a bigger issue. But we've seen Weston McKennie go off with his shit, last summer, and he worked past it, and look where he's at. Gio Reyna, you're 18, 19, work past this. He'll
be just fine.
You're going to be a starter for this team in the future.
Yeah. And a starter for a top 10 or 15 club in the world at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I think we agree from our takes in terms of there's more than meets the eye. But we can move on. You want to hit on a little bit of a preview for Saturday?
Yeah, man. I mean, this Saturday, round of 16, USA, Netherlands. Netherlands have had, a few of, or maybe not a few, but they're one shining young star in Cody Gakpo, who plays for PSV, who, I'm sure PSV are doing the same thing as Valencia, and they're counting up their tens of millions of dollars coming in with each goal that Gakpo scores. I'll just start off quick by just saying the Netherlands, obviously, they won their group. They have scored a ton behind Gakpo, but at the same exact time, the Netherlands drew Ecuador, which I thought was an interesting performance, and maybe one that I'm going to harp on a little bit too much. But Ecuador, I don't feel like is that dissimilar to the U.S. men's national team. They are, I think we are the third youngest team in the World Cup, Ecuador being the second youngest team in the World Cup. A lot of MLS talent also on that roster as well. Some guys playing in the Premier League. I feel like, Ecuador is a pretty interesting comparison to us. I do think we're better, but at the end of the day, the Netherlands in that game, even in the game against Senegal, right? I know they won 2-0, but they looked vulnerable at points. They looked a little bit older at points. And I'm just going to start off this conversation by saying I think the Netherlands are a beatable team. I'm not saying we are going to win, but I think they are a beatable side.
I would agree. I've followed Gakpo because he's been linked with Arsenal for 2 years now. What he's done so far has been phenomenal. Arguably the best attacking player of the World Cup so far. But he's had space in that final third, and it's something that's a strength of ours to this point, that we haven't given players space in that final third. We've talked till we're blue in the face about Adams and Musah and with their ability to close down. And a few of his goals have been where that 6 or that 8 has not closed down. They haven't respected him, and he's had that moment of magic, and you give him that window. I'm with you. The Netherlands themselves as a club, like you look at 1 through 11, there's a lot of guys, I think, honestly, on our 11 that would start on their 11. So I'm not
Sergino,
Pulisic, Turner. I think Turner was starting goal for him. So from that standpoint, like I'm not fearful. I think a lot of it comes down to tactics, and they've got good old Van Gaal versus Berhalter, and it's that is a weird tactical matchup from a manager standpoint. How do we come out? How do we approach it? Do we bunker? Do we let the game come to us? Do we try to boss the game? If I had to answer that question off the rip, I'd say just take it to him, man.
I feel like you have to come out how you came out against England.
Yeah, like you have to come out like you're playing with house money at this point, in my opinion. And the youth, and you have to take, to use one of my favorite words, you have to take your club's ability to use their moxie and their fearlessness to say it's us versus the world, as Timmy Weah says. And you just do that and you just head down and see where the cards lie. That's ultimately what it boils down to. And in a single elimination type tournament where we're at now, dude, you find a way past the Netherlands. That's the furthest from what I recall. My memory of U.S. soccer, we've never made it past the final 8. We've got a very good chance to get there. The cards have to break in our favor. We have to limit mistakes, just the basics, and we have to be a little bit better going forward.
100%.
Some of these opportunities that we've had, the McKennie, versus England, the Pulisic versus England, even tonight, Weah had a few chances to put the ball on frame and blast it into the 15th row. Like, you've got to find a way just to calm yourself for that split second. And what I'm talking about is, it's stupid for me even to say. Like, that's just pure instinct. But find a way just to keep the ball on frame, and we got a shot, man. Like, I'll be a nervous wreck, but we've got a shot.
So my only, I guess, real concern is, right, like Gakpo's hot. A hot striker does do a lot in a single tournament setting, whether it's the MLS Cup playoffs, whether it's the Gold Cup, whether it's the World Cup, right? Like, a hot striker can win you games, right? And we've seen that historically. Gakpo's on fire, and he's someone that Tyler Adams needs to have a Harry Kane in his pocket. Let's add Gakpo to the other pocket type game, right? Because you have to keep him in front of you. Like you said, you have to close down space. You can't allow him to get a shot off, because even with a little bit of space, I think it was against Senegal, he took advantage of it, and he put the ball in the back of the net. And, like, he's clearly someone who's world class right now, and he's clearly someone who you need to keep in front of you. So, I'm really hoping we get Walker Zimmerman back in from the start. I truly think, benching him today was a yellow card concern, plus, maybe Zimmerman not being fully 100%. So give him a rest before the round of 16 type of deal. So I'm truly hoping we can have Zimmerman keep just staying in front of Gakpo, Tyler Adams just kind of being all over him, getting in his face, coming from behind, just interrupting his flow of the game. Obviously, you still have Memphis Depay on the other side. You still have a ton of talented players. Like Frankie de Jong has had a very good World Cup so far. I do worry about, de Jong and kind of then Netherlands controlling the midfield while our MMA, has been controlling all the games we've played so far from a midfield perspective. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think our biggest thing at the end of the day is we do chance create for people calling for Gio Reyna to start to create more chances. We've created a lot of chances. I feel it's the finishing that's the issue. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to get our chances in this Netherlands game to score and to get on the front foot. We have to convert them. If Pulisic's not 100%, or obviously, Nathan, I agree with what you said before of you're never 100% as a professional. And I think especially when you're in the World Cup and you're playing a ton of games in a short schedule, you're never going to be 100%. But now Christian Pulisic, like he has a big knock. So like, what type of Christian Pulisic are we going to get? Is someone like Weah or McKennie going to finish that ball in this game? That, one of the few opportunities we're going to get. We didn't get a ton of opportunities against England, even though we controlled that game. We just didn't convert on the few that we had. We're not going to get a ton against the Netherlands because, yes, they're beatable, but Netherlands are also a very good team. We need to convert that. If we don't, it's going to be a game where I feel like Netherlands are going to have their shots. They're going to have their opportunities. They will convert one. They will convert two potentially. And we need to make sure we keep up with that. Again, I think we can win. I am going to just say from the USMNT fan in me and, obviously watching them win today, I will predict that we will win this game. It's not a confident prediction, though.
The one thing I'll say that we've talked about Gakpo a little bit, and Gakpo's had a few moments of magic, and like individual performances or individual moments where he has pulled, a rabbit out of a hat. He's changed the game himself. We have players of that same quality, but we've yet to have that. Our 2 goals, sadly enough, the 2 goals that we have scored, and it's credit that we've scored 2 goals and we're moving on. Credit to our defense.
Only allowed 1, and that was a PK.
Yeah. Exactly. So credit to our defense and just, the midfield again. But we have a Pulisic, we have a Weah. If Gio comes on, there's enough players within our squad. Dest is a good example that, like, if we can find that moment of magic where that unique shot or that low percentage shot from outside the box finds its way in the back of the net and we get up 1-0, I think our odds are very, very good. It's basics that I'm saying, but if we go down or we are down 1-0 and we're chasing the game, we're going to be in trouble. Because they have so much talent, both tactically and just physical talent, that they'll punish us for that. They'll bunker down defensively with Van Dijk and co at the back, and it's going to be extremely hard to break down if we're playing a low block. They'll just hit us on the counter, and we're going to be in big trouble.
They'll add a second. They'll add a second.
And you're down 2-0. I think you're playing. You're hoping that you win the lottery at that point. So, do we have a chance? Yes. Do I expect us to win? I'm with you. And the homer in me says yes. You always have to believe. I mean, literally, we have the most corny "I believe that we will win" chant that everybody wrote. That literally any true men's national team enthusiast that's not an AO diehard hates.
I'll just sing the Harry Maguire song again. So
there's look up Will Griggs on Fire. It's an English song. It's the Will Griggs, the player that I recognize. Yeah. But it's an English song that's very catchy, just the same. But yeah, I'm gonna say win, but I'm gonna say 1-0. It's the same nervy bullshit we dealt with today. That my hands are shaking that final 10, 15 minutes, that, every touch in the box where, the player takes a dive because Carter Vickers breathed on him. Yeah. And you're like, oh God, are they going to call this? Is this going to go the wrong way? I wouldn't say we got lucky today. We got the deserved calls, but yeah, I'll go 1-0 us, and on to the next, man. That gets real interesting at that point.
All right, so I'm going to close things out, Nathan. I'm going to ask you one question. I need a one-word answer, and then I'll let you plug all your stuff, your social media, you ain't lying, all that stuff. Post 2022 World Cup, at this moment in time, whatever happens against Netherlands, may it be win, loss, whatever, are you Greg Berhalter in or out?
Jim Curtin. 2 words.
Love it. Okay. Nate, go for all your plugging of your social media, podcast, all that.
Dude, I'm not even going to plug myself. I'm going to plug me and the boys and FC Cincinnati. You Ain't Lying, fan base podcast. I'm with you. We've been a little bit inconsistent down the stretch this past year, but FC Cincinnati's kind of coming to its own this past year with just the players we've got. Pat Noonan, Chris Albright, like, I love those guys. So the tide has turned. It's going to be a fun year. We're rumored with an Ecuadorian midfielder, which don't look up what he did this past weekend potentially, if you know Tom.
Yes, I do not.
Yes. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, you ain't lying. It's I believe it's Zuhas, which is German for at home. You know, Fußball Club FC Cincinnati, the German-based club as we were supposed to be, but yeah, I mean, that's it. No other plugs. I'll plug Tyler Adams one last time.
Tyler Adams is plugging all the holes in the transition game too.
Yes.
But Nathan, thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on, talking a little USMNT group stage with me. Listeners to the podcast, watchers of the podcast, whatever it may be, gonna shoot for an episode next week, obviously, hopefully after the Netherlands game and hopefully after we win and I can celebrate more and we can talk more about the next game. But stay tuned for that. Stay tuned to social media at MLS Aces on everything. Nathan, thank you again, man. And to everyone else, good night.